Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie Valentine and the host of this podcast. I'm a physician, evidential psychic medium, international keynote speaker, and author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide. The inspiration for this podcast came from my own life experiences. As I have journeyed through life, it has taught me that we're part of a greater divine web of interconnectedness. I have walked the path of illness, healing, and transformation. After two near-death experiences, I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and was guided to attend medical school at the age of 54. We will be meeting with many different types of doctors, healers, as well as spiritual leaders, educators, and other inspiring souls in this podcast. It is my hope that you will gain information and create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and bridge the gap between science and soul. To learn more about me or to work with me spiritually for ancestral healing, medical intuitive, evidential psychic medium, or to take my 8-week long course, Soul's Journey, Heart's Way, a course for authentic living, which will explore opening the doors to your divine potential. Available in most time zones across the world and starting March 27th, 2021. Please visit divinespiritualessence.com. To work with me as a physician, please visit drlottie.com. Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm so excited to introduce Claudia Watts Edge. Claudia Watts Edge's happy childhood suddenly fell apart at age 16 when her beloved father was killed in a work-related accident. Her father's death served as a catalyst, creating a thirst for answers. And this led her, in the 1970s, to Raymond Moody's writing about near-death experiences, NDEs. The search was further heightened when Claudia had a profound near-death experience in 1984, when she and her newborn baby died together in a placenta-related disaster. Her journey into fully understanding her near-death experience took over 30 years to evolve. And as a result, she has written 2 books exploring the spiritual mysteries of the other side as seen through her memories and dreams. They're titled Gifts from the Edge, Stories of the Other Side, and Volume 2, Lessons from the Other Side. A warm welcome to you, Claudia. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. What an intro. Thank you. You've done your homework. I'm sure
So tell me what happened during your daughter's birth.
One of the things that I wanted to bring into the story was pointing out intuition and the importance of our following in our own gut feelings and intuitions of things, because I had an absolutely normal pregnancy, but I had gone into a contraction. My stomach had gotten very, very hard, which is a part of the birthing process, but it didn't release. And I tried to just go on with the day's events and thinking that it eventually would, but it didn't. And I kept hearing, you need to go to the hospital. And I finally called my husband, we went to the hospital. They did a quick examination and said, well, technically you've only had 1 contraction. So this baby I had had 4 previous normal births. And so they said, because this will be your 5th baby and no problems, whatnot, we know that you'll probably have a baby tonight. Her due date was going to be the next day. And so I was right on time. They said, why don't you walk around the hospital a little bit and it'll kind of get things moving, and we'll see how you progress in a little while. Well, I walked away from the desk kind of begrudgingly. I didn't really want to go. I did not feel like that was what I was supposed to do. I didn't feel quite right. And we pretty much went around the corner of the hospital, got towards the elevator, and I saw a wheelchair and sat down. And my husband was kind of like, what's going on here? You know, we're supposed to be walking. And I said, you know, I don't feel like I should leave this area. In fact, I think I'm going to go back and tell them so. And so there were two really strong intuitions that I decided I would follow, because I got up to the nurse's desk and I said, you know, I'm just not feeling quite right. I just feel like I should stay near. And she says, well, you know, whatever, we know you're going tonight. So here's a gown, go in and put one on. And I was in the locker room and I noticed as I was changing droplets of blood on the tile floor. I had never seen that prior to going into labor and whatnot. And so I was concerned. I rang for the nurse and she looked at the blood drops and she said, well, you know, that's normal, or maybe you were pushing or something. And I was kind of like, no, I haven't even been in the restroom yet. I haven't been pushing. And as we talked, it was like a bucket full of blood just dropped between my legs. It spilled. It was fluid, and it took over our legs and feet and shoes and wall, and I mean, it was just one big splash. And her eyes just went as both of our eyes were about as big as saucers. You know, we both knew I was in trouble, and she just kind of took one hand and pushed me down on a gurney that was just sitting nearby. Now, mind you, we're in kind of a locker room, and there's like an examination room that's just off to the side where the gurney was. And so I only made it a few feet into this room as she was calling code. And by the time they got a intern in, because my doctor had been called and said, roll over in bed, she's going to be a while. So there was really no one on the floor of the delivery room in the hospital. So he was my choice and only choice. He walked in and said, this woman has 2 minutes of blood left. And, you know, I was looking over your story earlier today, and I know your audience may or may not know that we had kind of a similar-ish kind of experience of bleeding out. But something that you said I thought was so profound. You were saying there's a real difference between knowing you're dying as opposed to thinking you may die, or you're in trouble or afraid, or, you know, trying something new. Boy, I may die. But when you know that you're dying, it's a big difference. It still gives me goose pimples.
Yes.
So that was a really profound statement for me in your book. So when he stated that I only had 2 minutes of blood left, now, mind you, I was in no pain. There was nothing, you know, I was like, what? I'm dying, you know. And when you're in that emergency of a situation, and I don't blame the doctors or nurses for that. They kind of have to relay messages back and forth. There's not that, you know, wondering about the patient and whatnot, what the patient's going to hear. I was grateful for the knowledge of kind of knowing what the timing was. And they also said that that they couldn't find a heartbeat on the baby. And I lay there knowing I was dying, and now thinking my baby may have already perished. She was drowning in my blood, basically the placenta that had fed her and kept her all these months was now her enemy, and she was drowning within it. So I gave him my faith and hopes and just said, go ahead. And because they called for a scalpel. They rolled in a little table of these scalpels and pulled the light down in the examination room. There was no time for operating room. There was no time for even anesthesia. I had nothing. Not even an aspirin. I was down on this gurney, bleeding out. Blood was everywhere, and they were just holding my arms and legs to cut the baby out of me. And I voiced his permission to do so. So it was really traumatic and really kind of ghastly all at the same time. And when there was no response of the baby, And the pain was so incredible. Then I went from no pain to pain, unfathomable pain, as they were wrapping my intestines around the nurse's arm. There was this gray rope that was attached to me, and they were pulling out body parts to reach the baby. And I had had enough. I um, I I was trying to focus on some music, something that would calm me, calm my heart. I didn't want to pump out too fast. I knew that each heartbeat was precious at that point. And what I heard as my eyesight started to dim, the room was getting darker and darker, and I actually looked up to see if the lights were on. I That's how badly suddenly I couldn't see, but I could hear everything. My hearing was absolutely acute. I could hear conversations and phones all through the hospital, and I could hear this music playing, and it was the theme song from MASH. I don't know if you ever watched that television show,
Uh-huh.
but it came on. This was in Utah, and at the news was on at 10 until 10:30, and at 10:35, MASH came on. It was just a routine for, I don't know, more than 20 years. It ran at 10:35, and as I'm listening to this music, it was almost comical in my head, where I just thought, I'm dying, my baby is dead, and it's 10:35, and I'm listening to MASH. There was that moment of comedy or irony, to be so aware of that. And as the room got darker, the ceiling lifted. I was now exposed to the stars and sky, and the walls of the room became fluid. They started wiggling and coming in closer and closer, until I thought, oh my goodness, I think this must be the way a tunnel starts, because I had read stories about near-death experiences. So I thought, well, this must be the tunnel. And I wasn't well, I can't say I wasn't afraid. I was wide-eyed awake, right? It's kind of like, if this is how I go, I wanted to be cognizant of everything that went on around me. And so I just quietly, trying to hold back from screaming from the pain, but watching every movement and every person in that room, as I was making my exit. And I focused on my feet at one point, and I don't even know. It was just weird, because it's like I popped out the back of my body, and so I was looking at my feet when I popped out, and I wanted to express your audience that act of dying. Yes, there was pain, in the act of dying, but the actual dying was absolutely familiar. It wasn't scary, and it wasn't strange, and it as soon as it happened, I was completely calm. It was like I had done it before or something. It felt familiar. I rose above my body, and they were still working on my child that I and let me interject here, because I generally forget, and the poor audience is left. My daughter was resuscitated eventually. I didn't see it, but she's beautiful, and she's given me two little twin 5-year-olds, and so all turned out well. But at the time, as I looked at this gruesome scene, I had had enough, and I decided to follow the music. And I went through a wall as easy as could be. It didn't seem weird that I knew how. I was floating, and floating was familiar, um, like riding a bike. I had done this before. And I maneuvered very easily out into the waiting room, and passed by my then husband, who was busy filling out insurance forms and things like that, had his driver's license out. And I paused for a moment, because I just felt a sadness for him, not of myself. I was fine. I was me. All was well. But for him, I knew, with 4 children, and he had no idea what was happening within the next wall. had no idea it had only been a few minutes since he had left me at that nurse's station. Oh, how could he possibly know what was to come, what news would be delivered to him in just a few minutes of our passing, both my daughter and I passing. So I spent a moment with him, and then I moved on. I could still hear the music, and I ended up in a hospital room with a gentleman who was just kind of in and out of sleep, just kind of laying there in bed. And I I realized that he had no idea that I was there. Here I am sharing his TV with him, and he had no idea. And as soon as I thought, "Oh my goodness, he doesn't know I'm here, I must be dead." And as soon as I thought that, I ended up in a place so hard to describe, but it was complete black. It was a darkness, but it was beautiful and warm and loving and alive. And it knew me and it held me, and it was everything to me, and it cradled me within it. It was absolutely everything and nothing all at the same time. And I was so happy to be there. The experience could have lasted for eons. There was no time. I was just happy to be there and could have stayed in that state for forever and been just fine. But I started to hear a voice, and it's funny, I don't remember a body or anything. I was just focusing on what I could hear and feel more with my mind. Um, but in what I assuming was an ear, I heard Claudia, Claudia, come back to us. And I knew it was from the other plane, the earth plane that I was kind of in the in between of the two. And it was so irritating. It was the sound of this human voice in my beautiful void was so out of place there, that it was like I just wanted to push that sound away. It was, oh, don't talk to me, don't call my name, don't. And it was like I just kind of nestled tighter into that, the darkness. And eventually I thought, you know what, they're going to keep calling me. And I heard her say, your baby lived, come back to us, she needs you. And at that point, I thought, I'll just answer and then they'll go away. And I said, no, I know my baby died. I don't want to go back. And as soon as I engaged with the other realm, I was swoosh, right back into the body. So into all of its beauty and pain and everything else of this life, right? I was back. And this hospital had been a teaching hospital. And so, and I had become kind of popular. They even gave me a nickname. They called me Pioneer Woman, because they had basically held my arms and legs down, cut the baby out. And so they would come into the room with two questions. And the first one was trying to ask me if I could explain pain, what the level of pain that I went through. They were really curious about that. And I couldn't find the kind of words that they were looking for to explain that kind of pain. It's been years later, but when you watch an army show or something, and a soldier is hit in the gut in the battlefield, and when they lift up his shirt and they all know it's fatal, right? And they're kind of like, give him some morphine or whatever and hold his hand or whatever, because it's over, that's it. And they are in so much pain. That's the only thing I can equate, having your insides just kind of being ripped out of you. The second question that they were asking was, and it wasn't, did you die? Or they were telling me when you died. And mind you, this is in 1984. So there wasn't a whole lot of information about near-death experiences and things. Raymond Moody's books, were out in the early 70s. And I read them because I was searching for my dad. He was killed when I was 16. I was the oldest of 5 brothers and sisters. And I wanted to know where he went, what happened? Where does he reside now? What does he do? What do they do in heaven? That kind of thing. And so I really was fervent in trying to read everything I could get my hands on to understand what the other side was, and to find my own expression and an opinion of that place, because I couldn't log on to the harps and choirs kind of thing, that were just in perpetual church. It didn't sound fun to me. I was kind of like, and I knew my dad wasn't that type. Was he fishing? Was he still active in sports and, just having a grand old time? And so I read everything I could get my hands on. And so I understood that I had had a near-death experience, but what I couldn't convey to this question of who did you see, what did you feel, hear, see when you were dead? And I didn't have a very good answer. And I kind of stumbled over the words until I got to a place where if I say the wrong thing, because if I express that I was in darkness or, in a nothingness, because, a lot of religions and whatnot. I mean, I grew up thinking, the light was good and the dark was bad, positive, negative kind of thing. And here I had been in this place that was wonderful, just beyond words, wonderful. How do I explain that darkness was not hell? And it was such a precious and sacred experience, so very personal, that I felt if I shared it, because of the few times that I tried to share it, I just felt this kind of a little bit of a negative connotation coming with it. I had never heard any near-death experience before mine that was in darkness, and I have read a few of them now. But at the time, and that's why these programs are so important, right? Because I'm sharing something that maybe somebody else has experienced and is pushing down, just like I pushed it down. I kept it to myself for 30 plus years, right? I didn't talk about it. When I started admitting it, and it was rushing up, and I started having my dreams and visions and visitations and spirit school and all of the wonderful things that just came in a rush within the last 10 years. So here for over almost 35 years, it was just a nothing, no subject, right? Just untouchable. And so for me to express this now, I hope I'm talking to someone who this will really help, because there are just inexplainable wonders in the afterlife. And if we share them, it may make sense to another person, Um, when I started a real fervent quest to remember and know, I had a friend take me to an IONS conference, an international near-death studies conference. So, and it was a wonderful event. It was the first time I had been there, and there was someone speaking there by the name of Eben Alexander.
What year was that?
That was, what year was that? It's been
Where
like
was it
8
in
years ago.
Was it in San Antonio?
It was in Arizona, Phoenix.
Okay, it was right around, yeah, it was, because I went to my first one 2015, but I think it was around similar year, maybe 2 years before or something.
Maybe 2 years before. I think I'd been to Colorado.
It's interesting we had the same path. So tell me, so you went to this conference, and it was the first one.
Conference, and I went to the conference with a gal, her named Dee. She had been on a program. I don't know if you've ever seen that. We Survived Beyond and Back was a television program that I saw in 2015, something like, no, it had to be earlier than that, maybe 2012, something like that. And Dee was on this program, and I was led to find her, just how we were led to find each other. Here's this person. All I knew is that she had an antique store in Colorado, and I knew I had to talk to her. And I lived in Colorado at the time, but she lived 2 hours away from where I lived. And for my birthday present, my husband drove me and we checked out every antique store until I found her.
I love it.
And so she'd been on this program. And so when I went to this conference with her, I was not a newbie at that time. I was a newbie with one of the kind of rock stars of the whole thing. She was going to be speaking. Dr. Alexander was speaking. There were a number of really wonderful headlining speeches. And when we had breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we were meeting with the cast from this show, and Dr. Alexander had been on this show. So I was kind of sitting across from him at lunch one day, and he said something about, and I don't know if you know much about his NDE, and I won't go into it.
I do. Mm-hmm.
I would tell you.
It's the neurosurgeon from Harvard who was in a coma
Yeah.
and had a near-death experience, and they were actually monitoring his brain activity because he was at Harvard. He was a surgeon there, and they could see that there was nothing happening in his brain, but he still had near-death experiences that he wrote books about. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah.
So he just mentioned to this, to the table we were at having lunch, that he felt like if he had had control and could have, set up his own NDE, he would have met his father, who was also a surgeon. And as soon as I heard that, I mean, my ears just perked up, because I wondered for years, how come I died? Because as I was dying, I was just a little bit excited that I was going to be seeing my dad soon. I was really looking forward to that part. I would have to say the loss and everything, but knowing that I was going to see my dad that I missed and loved so very much. And when I didn't see him, that was another thing that added to my feeling a little bit negative towards my experience. And I know my mother kind of looked for that affirmation that I had seen, like, Mom, I saw Dad and he's fine and he's waiting for us. And, but I couldn't give her any of that. And so here's Dr. Alexander saying that he would have orchestrated that to happen in his NDE, but what happened in his NDE was so much bigger, different, that's he had the NDE that was meant for him, and where that has taken us, and the information and knowledge that he has been able to share from that is amazing. So that's all I'll give the audience on that. They can Google him and watch his podcasts and that, but that opened a door for me that that I knew that there was more to my near-death experience than I remembered. And I believed that I was in kind of a holding, or that I had gone through a veil of forgetting of the entire thing, because I was not ready for that much information. And so what has come to me is through my dreams and studies and, reading books and meeting the authors and whatnot, just being really open to any piece of knowledge that I'm ready for. And as a human being, we say, we want the answers. We want to know, right? But the light knows us intimately and knows what we can handle, or knows. And I think it was kind of like the perpetual carrot in front of me, of the curiosity carrot, because it's like they give me a little bit and then move that carrot just a little bit further.
So
and
true.
I would just reach and reach for more knowledge, and everything I got. I can understand a little bit of addiction in that way, because that spiritual addiction, you get this little shot in the arm, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And it's like, wait, I want more. I want, more and more. And that's how I was. And so I have been chasing this carrot now for 12 years or so of getting the knowledge back, being kind of not in the desert anymore, not in the wandering, but now I'm on the receiving. And so what I get are memories of my NDE, dream visitations, knowing my spirit guide, just so many wonderful things have happened. That pushing down, it's all gone. I'm open now.
Wow, what an incredible story. I know that you talk about all the different lessons that you learned. And one of the lessons that you talk about is that you're here for a reason.
Mm.
So all the people that are listening now, because I get this myself a lot, is, oh, you had an NDE, you know what you're doing, right?
Right. We
But
can
and I
attest
can
to it.
remind people that, everybody is here for a reason. So
Yeah.
what did you learn about that?
What I learned was so profound and wonderful because we are here for a purpose. And all of it isn't some big thing. We're here to write a book, or we're here to, become a professor, or, whatever it is. What I found was that Earth, and I have to give it props because it is a gift built with absolute love from our creator. Source created this place for us to come, and I'm going to use the word experience because it's not exactly like a lesson, like we didn't come here to show we could be perfect. We have perfection on the other side. What we come down here for is to experience, just the taste of food, sex, or hot and cold, or jealousy, and physical love, a physical the feeling of hating someone or being brought to that point. All of it is really, really um, there is so much information to be gained from every one of those type of experiences that we have in this life. We're anxious to come here and experience that because we are pieces of God. We've heard different, a shard of God, a piece of the light, or we're created in his image. We are all seriously a piece of God. We are created in the physical because God is not physical. So what we are servants and foot soldiers to our source that we love, to us, to ourselves, we are all necessary. This whole collective of every single one of us are important, because not just that bum standing on the corner that's looking for coins to buy alcohol or something. His I believe it was Betty Eadie's book, Embraced by the Light, and I could be wrong, it's been a while since I've read her book, but she was shown this man on the corner's importance of being there because there was a rich lawyer that walked past him every day and ignored him every day, and he was there. His physical purpose in this world was to be a reminder to the rich as they walked past him every single day that there are those who could certainly use you know your help, your service, to give them um, financial assistance, love, attention, even just smiling at them or something, showing them that you understand they are human. But mostly when someone's in that situation, we look the other way. We don't even look at them. And that was shown to her as this man, that was his absolute importance. We all, I call it, for lack of better words, what was shown to me in a spirit school situation was an arc. It was like a theater type thing where the chairs, you've got, the front row is maybe, and it's arched. So you've got, say, 10 seats in the very front next to the stage. But then the next row has got maybe 20 seats or 15 seats, and it grows exponentially all the way back till you've got a full theater, but it's much smaller at the near the stage. Those very, very few seats up there. And what those seats represented in my spirit school, those were the people in our lives. And we have, I'll use the word contracts with these people to be our lovers, friends, mothers, brothers, sisters, the people who are really important in our lives, who will really help us along with our progression, our spiritual progression along the way. We've chosen long before we got here, who will play those roles. And those roles become a little bit less important. Not, and earth words are hard because those roles are not less important. They may only have one duty to your world, their part in your world, but they're contracted to do that part. And it could be something just as far as a nudge back on the right track, so to speak, of your journey, of what you wish to accomplish while you were here. Because while we are here, we have an opportunity to walk in another's shoes, so to speak, and we do it. For anyone might be surprised of reincarnation, and I know I'm jumping into another deep topic because I didn't understand reincarnation, and I kind of didn't want to play in that arena for a while till I really got a hold of what that really meant. In fact, I saw a medium one time, and I says, if you tell me that my dad is now my son, I'm going to freak out because I don't want to know that stuff. It's like that's kind of beyond my little globe, my little head space right now. So it's like don't be giving me that kind of information, even if it's true. I'm not ready for that right now. So the idea of reincarnation has been slowly brought into my sights, and I embrace it now because I understand it. And that's another one of the things in spirit school that I learned was how hard it is to explain those type things to someone who doesn't have the background or the readiness to receive it. When I said earlier, we all want answers, it's like we want to know what our purpose is. Well, it's hard to just give that huge spiritual puzzle to someone with a limited capacity to hold all of that information. So we're given these layer upon layers as we're ready to receive it and hold on to it, because you and I speaking today and on a awesome topic. It's my topic. I love it. I enjoy it so much. It's my favorite thing to talk about is the afterlife, right? I'm enthusiastic about it. It's my purpose. I understand my purpose. But for someone who, like, I wasn't quite ready even just before the 10 years ago, I needed the layering of information to really grasp and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I promise you I do not. But in this, going back to our theater and why we are here, when we have this opportunity to say you've been a thief in this life, next time you will probably, and I understand karma, but I don't believe we are in a wheel of karma and we can't get out. We've got to, I think we are excited about the experiences. And I'll use the word karma only in that if that wheel turns, it's because now next time I'm going to be the owner of the shop that thief is stealing from. And I'm trying to feed my family. And every month the books are short and and people are taking from me, and I feel that pain of going through the shelves and not having enough to support my own family. It's like you get to feel what it was like to be the thief and that need or want or whatever, that drive for them to do that. But you come back and you have an opportunity to feel what that was like on the other side. So all of these experiences are important because when we pass, we go to, and the other side, we have a life review, and all of these experiences are shared. They are gone over. They are looked at very closely, but not in a place of judgment, but in a place of helping us understand them. And we will be our own worst judges of ourselves. There's not punishment for, oh, you did this. It's hard enough when we're standing there with our elders and our loved ones, our ancestors. They are there to support us, because when we go through some of those opportunities that we missed and we were cruel to another, or missed an opportunity to be kind to someone else, we'll feel that sting. And it's
I
not
often think of that in daily life. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, I'm going to do the right thing because I don't want to get to the other side. I know that this is
yeah,
not right. I'm going to do the right thing as hard as it is sometimes, right? Yeah,
exactly.
because when you've had that experience and it's so in your face on a daily basis that, you know, if you do something wrong, you're going to feel that you're going to feel
Exactly.
that pain that you cost somebody else when you go to the other
Exactly.
side in your life review,
And
right?
on the other hand, all those small things, your and I excitement to meet each other and what that did to bring up my day or this opportunity or something simple as smiling. Of course, it's hard with masks on anymore, but to smile at a stranger,
Right.
it's like to lift somebody's day, and it could make such a difference in someone's life that you have no idea of the
Mhm.
ripples that were created by that simple smile. But that person may have gone home in a much better
Mhm.
mood, perhaps didn't have that fight with their husband, brought stress to their children to make their world maybe make different choices than they would if they were felt loved and secure and not in a yelling or conflicting household. So we don't have the capacity to see all the ripples that we create. But man, I'm out there smiling and waving, trying to be a nice person.
Yeah, no, but it's so important and it does have a ripple effect, right? Because
Mhm.
we synchronize and train with all of those around us through our heart space, which is
Yeah,
all electrical, our little electrical equipment. So it is so important. Um, I know when you talk about the spirit school, is that something that you go there in your dreams or in meditation or what? How did
I
you
do.
access that?
I wish I was a better at meditating. Um, and I think I will be, but right now I have my little twin grandchildren live with us, little 5-year-olds, and it's hard to have that space. The house. I don't live in a quiet house anymore, so
You're
I
having an experience, so just go with it,
exactly
right? The meditation will come when it's time
when
for
it's
that,
exactly.
right?
So I depend on my dreams. I look forward to my sleeping, but it's not. But as I get ready to sleep, I'm consciously I kind of fight it for a while. I like living in that interim of the in between. Theta is, I believe, what they call that, where you're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake. And those have been times, and that I have seen friends from the other side, or um, sorry, some of them are just
Mhm.
personal, so I'll just,
Mhm.
but I have seen really short instances in that. And then I always go to sleep with the intention of inviting some kind of knowledge to come, some kind of experience, visitation. And when you ask about spirit school, I it came from wanting to know my spirit guide. I used to walk a lot, and on my walks, I would ask, I really want to know who you are. I just knew that there was a spirit guide. I believed there was a guide helping me. And I would talk to him just like regular, I want this relationship with you. And as I walked, I would see things like a white butterfly on the trail or a white bird that was, kind of just in front of me, just like I was following this bird, and it would wait and then it would go a little bit and fly and then wait again. And I started to notice that all these things were white. And I was just like, I think my spirit guide is white. I don't know. But I just knew that he was listening. And so in my dreams, what he would help me, and I didn't recognize him for a long time because he would wear costumes, something that was out of the ordinary for the dream I was having. If I, so I call them sand dreams, some dreams that are just, they're just kind of mind filling. And as soon as you wake up, they just drizzle like sand in the air, right? Just a puff and they're gone. But there's a lot of information conveyed in dreams. It's a vulnerable, another earth word that's not quite right. it's a time where our mind can be open to receiving information. And I've since learned, we have an attachment to the body, but we don't stay in there. We can go places in our sleep. So I've learned to really appreciate and honor my sleep. And what I was finding is that my spirit guide would stand off to the side of my dreams. You're having, I don't know, you're hopping in a ride on a car ride with your friends and getting in the door, and here's this weird figure standing by the car, and you're like, who is this guy that's all in red or twirling around? One time he dressed up like a whirling dervish, which I was just like, it just did not fit in the dream at all, right? A Texaco man, or I'm just different kinds of things, and it would pull me out of that dream to focus on him. And he would hold up a billboard. He didn't speak, but he would hold up this sign that would say, pay attention to this. And it would pull me away. And then he would take me to spirit school. And it was, sometimes it's in nature, sometimes it's a class setting. I don't necessarily see other students. I just know that they're there. And I know that we are all experience, and there'll be headings on these schools. Tonight's lesson is cause and effect, or the layering of knowledge, or a universal place of knowledge. It will be a taught class, and by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, wow, I went to spirit school, and I think most of us do. I've just been really diligent in wanting to know, where it's something that I ask as I go to sleep, and the first thing I think of when I wake up: where did I go last night? What did I do? And I keep a journal by my bed, and before I'll grab for that pen and that paper, and I'll just scribble out, without even opening my eyes, trying to hang on to that dream, and write down just a couple of words that might be able to bring me back as I wake up and run to the bathroom or whatever. It's like, oh yeah. And then I get in my journal and capture it. So I've got lots and lots of journals of stories and experiences. I thought we might spend a second on my new book coming out, and you're going to be a part of that book. I'm so excited. There are many, many wonderful contributors. I won't name them all here. I have a website that's almost finished being built. I just took down the old one because there's so much new and exciting things. I'm building a new one, but it'll be claudiaedge.com. And I'm going to be talking about this book. It's called We Touched Heaven, and it will be out this spring. And the contributors and the stories, the richness of this book is phenomenal. And it makes me cry to even think that this honor is mine to be able to put this together. So I look forward to speaking to you again when this book is a little closer to coming out, and we can.
Right. Oh, well, you'll definitely have to come back and talk about it with, I know, some of the contributors to the book, and it's going to be an amazing book. I think it's going to be very popular, and a lot of people are going to be thankful for that book because it's going to be a masterpiece. So
yay. Thank you.
Definitely, you will have to come back and talk about it. And it's such a great title. So
yeah, I think so too. And it was all directed by the light. So I just go, what do you want me to do next? Okay, let's go.
Right.
So we'll be talking more about that. But
yeah. And so your website is claudiaedge.com.
Right.
And your books, they are on Amazon?
Yes, easily, just Gifts from the Edge or Claudia Watts Edge will bring them up. And, when I was talking about that I didn't share my NDE very easily, I wrote a whole book and hardly mentioned it in the first book. So my second book contains more of my near-death experience, and I have a synopsis of what it was like on the other side, what I learned. And you'll be able to find that on my website. It's called The 10 Things I Learned When I Died. And that will be on there as well. It's probably going to be, I'll say another week. Hopefully it won't be a week that website will be up and running, and your audience will be able to find that, The 10 Things I Learned When I Died, really easily.
Yeah, those are great advice. Your 10 different lessons. So definitely go check that out, and be on the lookout for the new book coming out. And it's been an honor to have you on the show today, and sharing all your journey and all your gifts for the audience.
Oh, thank you. I love when I can just sit and you let me just be enthusiastic about this. This is my calling. This is my purpose. And it's all led to this point right now. I just want to say hello to the audience. Thank you for being here with me and letting me just go on and on about such wonderful things. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was such a gift to have you on the show. So look forward to having you back in the future as soon as the book comes out, and have share about the book to the audience. Awesome. I can't wait. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Dr. Lottie Science with Soul. Make sure you are subscribed so you will be notified of new episodes as they become available. To learn more about me or to work with me spiritually for ancestral healing, medical intuitive, evidential psychic medium, or to take my 8-week-long course, Soul's Journey, Heart's Way, a course for authentic living, which will explore opening the doors to your divine potential, available in most time zones across the world and starting March 27th, 2021. Please visit divinespiritualessence.com. To work with me as a physician, please visit drlottie.com. My book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, is available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide.